Who are we voting for? Meet the candidates. Who Are We Voting For was created so we could understand who the candidates are and what they are about. This is not an endorsement for any candidate. This is for the voter to be more educated about who we're voting for.
Hello, my name's Judge Alyssa Cowan. I'm currently a judge in the Court of Common Pleas assigned to the Family Division. I was appointed to the bench by Governor Shapiro. I grew up in Monroeville. My parents still live in Monroeville. I grew up in Monroeville with my mom, my dad, my brother, who's 9.5 years younger than me, and really took on a role almost as a second mother with my brother because there was such a large age gap between us. I graduated from St. Bernadette's in 8th grade and then obtained a scholarship to attend the Ellis School and graduated from the Ellis School, high school. I spent a lot of my time as a high school student engaging in a lot of volunteer work. I was always curious about my community, about the world around me, trying to learn the most about everything, and so did a lot of volunteer work with Habitat for Humanity in Braddock, as well as was a tutor, an after-school tutor for kids with East Liberty Presbyterian Church. And really that love of service and love of working with the community, engaging with the community, led to many of my pursuits in college and as an adult. I graduated from American University in DC. I was campus president of our campus chapter of Habitat for Humanity, where I led weekend builds all across the East Coast in DC, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Harrisburg, and then spring break trips to Georgia. Needless to say, I was really devastated when President Carter died because he was a huge mentor and influence in my life in terms of just having that philosophy of Habitat with working with the families together side by side on the houses. And also in college, I was part of a program, a partnership that my university had with Lincoln Multicultural Middle School, which was a middle school in DC in the Columbia Heights neighborhood that had the highest concentration of English as a second language students, the highest concentration of recent immigrant families to DC. And so I was working with teachers in the school to really just assist with anything that the teachers needed, whether it was tutoring for the kids, helping develop a health and wellness program for the kids and a health and wellness fair. And that led to me first pursuing a professional career in social work. And I have my master's degree in social work. And I'm the only judge on the bench currently with a master's in social work and a JD. So it's really important for me to combine both of my skill sets for all of my cases that come through my courtroom. So I think that my life experiences and my professional experiences have really helped me to develop the skills to be a compassionate, informed, fair, unbiased, and accessible judge in the Court of Common Pleas. I did come to the law through social work. I was a social worker first. I was living and working in Philadelphia, where I was a school social worker in Philadelphia Public Schools. And I was working with a lot of families who were court involved and going to family court with the families as a social worker. And so walking into the courtroom, not as a judge, not as an attorney, and experiencing the system, the court system, from the perspective of just a professional in the world, trying to partner with the families that I was working with and trying to process that experience of going to court with them, I really experienced a lot of what they were experiencing in terms of walking into a courtroom that was not trauma-informed, walking into a courtroom that was not focused on understanding the needs of a family, with judges screaming at parents, screaming at kids, with judges and attorneys not explaining legal jargon to the families, and really it being an overwhelming and really scary experience for families and them not getting the support and assistance they needed, and them being oftentimes quite intimidated by the whole entire process. So when I was going to court with my families as a social worker, I realized, wow, this really can be better. We need to improve this, which is why I went to law school. I was fortunate to obtain a public interest scholarship at Temple University School of Law. I was one of 3 students my class year, and that allowed me to, it covered my tuition and allowed me to pursue a career focused on public interest work and focused on improving the court system for children and families. I have a lot of litigation experience before I was appointed to the bench. I started as a litigator at DC's Office of the Attorney General, litigating child abuse and neglect cases. I also spent some time at the ABA Center on Children and the Law in DC, working on federal foster care legislation. I have 2 children who are now teens, but at that point in my career, in the early point of my career, when my first child was born, my husband and I, he's also from Pittsburgh, he grew up in Wexford. After living in DC for several years, we wanted to raise our kids in Pittsburgh. So we came back to Pittsburgh. I had a 2-year-old and an infant. We wanted to come back home. We wanted to be closer to family. We wanted to make sure that our kids were going to grow up as Pittsburghers, and we realized that that wasn't going to happen unless we got them home here sooner rather than later. And so we moved back with our toddler and our infant, and I started working at Kids Voice, representing kids in the foster care system. And I was representing kids both in the courtroom and then also in their school settings, their behavioral health, and their medical settings too. I'm really proud of the work that I did to help develop the medical educational unit at Kids Voice, where we were able to advocate for kids in school, in their school disciplinary hearings, able to advocate for them to receive the special education services that they were entitled to, and really just partnering closely with both the children that we had as clients as well as their family members. And also doing that as well in their behavioral health settings to make sure that kids weren't being overly medicated in their mental health care, to make sure kids' voices were heard when they were going through intense mental health crises. And then a lot of our kids also had just like complex medical problems that needed some medical advocacy in terms of them getting all of the services through their health insurance, through anything that we could do to make sure that they were getting all of their needs met. After several years at Kids Voice, I went on to become a legal trainer with the statewide adoption and permanency network. So I've provided legal trainings across the state of Pennsylvania to judges, hearing officers, caseworkers, probation officers, foster families. So not only do I have that years and have worked in litigating and in the courtroom on a case basis with hundreds and hundreds of cases, but I've also have that legal training background where I've had a deep dive in the law, and I've been responsible for training on child welfare law in counties throughout all of Pennsylvania. So my depth of knowledge and my just passion for this field, my dedication to specifically law impacting kids and families is really deep and robust and different from many others who ascend to the bench. After working with the statewide adoption and permanency network, most recently prior to my judicial appointment, I was managing 16 attorneys in our county law department, and that was our unit, our 16 attorneys in our CYF Department of Human Services unit. So not only do I have the in-courtroom litigation experience, the deep knowledge of the law and training on the law, I've also have the management experience of managing a whole lot of attorneys and what that takes, and especially attorneys who are working in a really, really difficult area of the law, who are often experiencing their own secondary trauma from the intensity of the cases, the high caseloads, and being able to support not only attorneys, but caseworkers and others through that process. And again, I have my master's degree in social work, so I do approach everything from a social work perspective, from that training as well, and really work hard to solve the problems that are bringing families into the courthouse in the first place. First of all, I am appointed to the bench, so I'm a judge currently. I was really thrilled and honored to receive the support of Governor Josh Shapiro. When I went through the nomination process, I was nominated by Senator Jay Costa and Senator Lindsey Williams. My nomination was well vetted by the governor's office, went through background checks, interviews with the governor's office, and then, of course, a thorough evaluation by the full Senate. I appeared before the Senate Judiciary Committee and then was voted on by the full Senate in Pennsylvania, and then appointed to the bench and assigned to the family division. So I really was thrilled to be able to receive that appointment. And so now I'm thrilled to be serving in the family division. I want to continue serving as a judge in the family division. So that is why I'm running to be elected for a full 10-year term so that I can continue serving past the time that this vacancy would end. In addition, I'm at a point in my legal career where I've obtained the skill set, the knowledge, the demeanor, and just the experience to be able to bring to the bench just that calmness, that fair, unbiased, accessible approach to the bench, and have developed that over years and years of work in this field. In addition, I did run in 2021, and that was my first time ever running for any kind of public office. This was not necessarily something that I saw myself doing. I didn't go to law school. I didn't go to social work school with the intention of running as a candidate and managing a campaign and doing everything that's involved in that. But I knew that my skill set, I could continue to best serve kids and families in Allegheny County from the bench. So I thought I need to be courageous. I need to try. I need to test the waters. And so in 2021, I did that. I tested the waters. I went into it knowing that it was highly unlikely that I would be successful, but that I wanted to give it a try. And I know it often takes candidates multiple times running before they are successful in obtaining a seat on the bench. And I had a really good experience in 2021, despite it being COVID and a lot of challenges with campaigning with masks on and a lot of campaign events being virtual and by Zoom, and it being a difficult time for people to get to know me. Nonetheless, I still really connected with a lot of people in the county. A lot of people really liked my background, liked what I could bring to the bench, and I got a ton of support in the county. And there were 39 candidates on the ballot in 2021, and I came in 12th. And 9 of those candidates on the ballot went forward to become sitting judges. And then actually a 10th one became a sitting judge from a special election that was held also in 2021. So I came really, really close as a first-time candidate with no background in running for office. And that really helped me to see that it's something that I could do. And so at that time, I committed myself to doing this again. And then in between 2021 and running now in 2025, I had the opportunity to be nominated and appointed to the bench, and now coming into the primary as a judge and running as a judge and having the opportunity to ask everyone in Allegheny County to keep me on the bench. So I just want to take a minute and really talk about how I approach my cases as a sitting judge. So I do have my master's in social work in addition to my law degree, and I really want to just explain and kind of break down what that looks like on a day-to-day basis when you're coming into my courtroom and appearing before me. First of all, I've hired staff in my chambers who share the same passion and dedication that I do to making sure that our courtroom is fair, unbiased, and accessible for everyone coming into that courthouse. And that includes making sure that it's fair, unbiased, and accessible to parties who are often representing themselves, often as we describe pro se litigants. People who find themselves in a position of not being able to afford high-cost attorneys, or they might fall in that really difficult category of people who earn too much to qualify for financial help for attorney services, but don't make enough to pay the going rates of what attorneys charge here in town. So I've trained my staff to make sure that they're available and understand all of the resources, all of the services that can help individuals with being able to present their case to the court, and making sure that my staff is trained and knowledgeable and also has that friendly demeanor of truly working to solve their problems, and making sure that my staff is a friendly voice when they're answering voicemails, when they're answering emails, when we have people coming to us and asking for help, to make sure that everyone in my chambers is really there to assist and really keeping up on all of the resources in our county. In addition, I'm also looking at all of my cases, again, from that interdisciplinary dual lens perspective. So when I'm asking questions of individuals and parties and attorneys as they're presenting their cases, I'm not only evaluating their responses in terms of, does this meet the legal standard, does this meet the legal burden for whatever it is I need to make a legal decision about, but I'm also listening to hear any other concerns that they're bringing to me as a judge. For instance, in protection from abuse hearings that I was listening to last week, I had a mother coming in who was very concerned about violence she was experiencing from her partner. And very early on, it was clear that this would meet the legal standard of me being able to issue a protection from abuse order on her behalf. But as she kept talking, she was also talking about just some things that she was observing with her 12-year-old. Her 12-year-old had been biting his nails to the point where his fingers were bleeding, that her 12-year-old was starting to have some resistance about going to school, and really just a lot of things going on that she was concerned about, with the 12-year-old having witnessed and experienced some of this violence that was going on in their household. So the legal decision was quick. I was able to say, yes, I'm going to order this protection order. But then I took that extra time to say, okay, what are you connected with your child? What kind of resources do you need for your child? Let's get you connected with our wellness clinic right here in the courthouse. Let them know that Judge Cowan has sent them down there, and that Judge Cowan wants you to be walking out of the courthouse today with some resources about behavioral health services for your child, with some resources about some services that exist at Children's Hospital, because she said her child was also having some severe headaches that they were experiencing, and some concerns she had in regard to her child's eyesight or possible migraines. And so we worked through all of those issues in our courtroom. So it was not only the immediate legal need being met, but it was also just that broader issue of, like, what else was she facing in her household and how can we assist? And then my staff was able to provide her with the phone numbers, paperwork, directions of where to go next. So that's really what this looks like on a day-to-day basis, the perspective that I bring to the court. So I'm working really hard to earn the vote of every member of Allegheny County. And I believe that people should vote for me because I do bring the depth of experience, the knowledge base, as well as the interdisciplinary perspective of both a master's degree in social work and a law degree to the bench. I'm the first MSW JD on the bench. I was appointed by Governor Shapiro. I have the backing and support of the governor in this position, and I'm honored to serve, and I want to keep serving the families and children of Allegheny County as a judge in the family division for as long as possible. So I'm really, really hoping to earn the vote of all the members of the community and a wide array of members of the community. I'm working really hard to connect with as many people as I can during this campaign season, and I really encourage voters to reach out and check out my campaign website and take a look at the endorsements that I've earned. Take a look at my campaign video on my website at votecowan.com. And I really hope to earn your vote on May 20th. I'm number 5th on the Democratic ballot, and I'm also cross-filed as a sitting judge. So I will be on both the Republican and Democratic ballots. And again, number 5 on the Democratic ballot. Thank you so much.